guys, and welcome to a new week of the Porsche Cup on iRacing. It's week 2 this week on the Laguna Seca track. Obviously pretty well known around the world, so let's get into it. So let's dig into the track guide then for the Laguna Seca circuit. I'm starting off here on the run down to turn 1 from the start finish straight. Let me just pause that for you. So what you notice is you take quite a nice tight line towards the pit wall. You can see there, you're always touching the wall. You want to get as close as you can to that wall on the left-hand side there. Just covering off the unnecessary meters. You don't really want to be going any further off the racing line than that. Again, tight to the inside here. You've got these cones on the left. Now, you need to be really careful with these cones because in some cars and some series, you can actually pick up damage from hitting these things. So obviously, it'd be better if you didn't hit them. But again, as close as you can to these cones on the left-hand side. And then what you really want to do after you've gone past these cones is straighten the car up. Make sure you're braking nice and in a straight line. So you get that peak brake performance. Obviously running the car out nice and wide. And then what you'll notice, you can actually go on this piece of track here. So obviously use that to your advantage. I don't use it too much here, but if you really want to, if you want to open up the corner, you can go all the way out here. As long as you're not all 4 wheels over the white line, then you're okay, you won't get an off track. So you're running it into turn 1, downhill braking, quite tricky. Braking just about at this little braking marker here, so just before the number 4. Obviously downhill, so you want to brake a bit earlier than you usually would. Again, straight line the braking zone and into turn 1. And now it's quite a tricky corner, turn 1 and 2, because there's sort of one corner that you want to merge into one. So what I tend to do, you want to apex just after this red sort of sausage curb here. Make sure you don't touch most of these sausage curbs because they will throw you off and unbalance the car. And of course you don't really want that. So get it into this apex just after the sausage, and then you want to get it nice and nicely rotated, which leads into turn 2. Effectively, it's the same corner. You want to run it nice and deep into turn 1, so you get a nice exit, which becomes your exit for turn 2. So you can see you're nice and patient on the throttle. I'm nearly full lock here as well, just trying to get that rotation into this curve as well. So you notice the line I've taken. Apex just after the sausage curb. Can be very patient, and you notice I'm also trail braking. So I've got about 10% brake on. What it does is puts more weight on the front of the car, will help you get the rotation, get the front end into the corner. It needs to be a bit patient on the throttle, but then as soon as you feel you're going to make this apex, you get right back on that throttle. So you see here, just feathering feathering the throttle here. And then make sure again you're hitting this apex as same as you did with turn 1 really, just after the sausage you want to apex here. Onto the throttle, obviously using all the curb here. I'll just show you that so it's all in one sort of fluid motion. So obviously braking just before the 400 meter board into turn 1, out of turn 2, nice and early on the throttle and out to that curb. Right, heading into turn 3, again this is quite a tricky corner. The track's quite wide here. You want to apex quite early for turn 3. So I'll play it all in one motion for you. You see I'm apexing quite early there. I'll give you a little breakdown of that. So again, braking just before the 200 meters here. And if you go into the cockpit, what you really don't want to do is use all of this curb because you will run wide. You really want to apex quite early so you can get a better exit, get on the throttle a bit earlier, because it does happen with this corner. You brake a bit later, you turn in a bit late, and then you won't make the apex, and the rear will step out on you as well. So really just want to make sure you're turning in a bit earlier than you think you should here. It can catch you out. So you notice quite a lot of lock on as well. You can hit this sausage curb, it's probably best not to, but you can get away with it. Obviously this car is not awful over the bumps. Really depends on the corner. But you see I hit it slightly there and the car didn't mind too much. Wouldn't have cost me too much time. So yeah, just on the exit there, you can see I've just clipped it. Get on the throttle as early as you can. So you're going to carry the speed all the way down to turn 4. So there you go, just touch that curb there. You can also slightly touch the gravel here. I would suggest not doing it, but if you're really struggling for that exit speed, then you can use it. You do risk an off track though. The curbs generally around here, they're quite flat, so you can use all of the curb. Again, it's just the sausages you don't really want to touch. It really unbalances the car, especially in the high speed corners, these sort of corners. But going on to turn 4, quite a high speed 4th gear corner. Use the sausage a bit there again. Preferably don't want to be touching it too much. For this corner, again, using all the entry curb you can, just to open up the corner, carry as much speed, as much minimum speed as you can. You can see I'm right out to the edge of the curb here. Just a little bit of dab of brake. You want to hold that towards the apex. Again, just get the front end nice and gently. You probably want no more than 40% brake here. And then you just get you getting back on the throttle just before the apex. So you can carry that speed out of the corner. So I'll just play that through for you. Hold the brake on the power nice and early. Use all of the track on the exit. And again, you can use up all this curb here, no problems at all. They're very forgiving at this track, which is nice. Coming down to turn 5 then, you're braking just between the 400 and 300 meters roughly. So if you stop here, just braking just before the 300. Again, using all this entry curb you can. And then getting it turned in nice and early, similar to turn 3. And the difference here is there's a little bit of camber you can use, which really, obviously, positive camber is going to help get the car into the corner. You can see you want to get quite a nice and early apex. If you go out too wide, say your tyres out here, you're going to understeer wide and you're going to lose a lot of time. So it's very important here. You get the car in nice and early. You can see I'm sort of aimed, look at the trajectory of the car, I'm sort of aimed around this sort of curb here, early in the corner. Again, apexing just slightly before the sausage. And these sausages are great references around the track. You sort of know what you're aiming for in the corner. So again, for this corner, you're apexing just before it. You can get on the throttle nice and early because of the camber. And then you can run a slightly wide on exit as well, and obviously use all the exit curb, as we have done for most of the circuit so far. So I'll just play that through for you. Getting into that camber, getting on the throttle nice and early and running out wide. Now coming into one of the trickiest corners on the track, in my opinion, because there's such a fine margin of error here, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'll play it through for you. Firstly, you want to get just into that dip on the apex. So you'll notice if I stop it just here, there's obviously if you touch this sausage, you will go flying off the track, and I've done that many a time during practice. You turn in slightly too early here, you're gonna feel the pain of that curb. It is horrible. You do not want to touch it under any circumstances. So braking, just halfway between the 300 and 200 meter board. You don't want to brake more than 50%, I'd say, on the brake here. And then using all the entry curb, it's really important in this corner because the minimum speed is really important, and the exit, you carry that all the way up the hill to the corkscrew. So again, using all the entry curb you can. Do you want to risk turning a bit early? Because if you don't make this sort of apex here, you will run wide on exit, and you'll dip a wheel on the gravel, and you'll slide off. So as I said, one of the trickiest corners, in my opinion, on the whole track. You're really looking to get into your left front, just inside that curb there, not touching the sausage. So you can see there's a nice dip you can use there, and that really rotates the car. Again, using the camber to your advantage, making sure you don't hit the curb, obviously, and then running slightly wide. Something to look out for as well on this exit curb. Very easy. If you go slightly too far on it, the curb will just drag you off the track. And obviously you'll lose a lot of time, you risk crashing, and that's never a good thing. So try and avoid that. I'd say don't go any more on the curb than you need to, so probably about halfway onto the curb is probably about safe. And then I'll show that for you one more time. And nice and early into the apex on the throttle, you're carrying all that up the hill. And then what you want to do is cut this as soon as you can from the curb over to the left, just a straight line. Don't scrub off any unnecessary speed. So straight line the run up the hill. You can run this curb on entry quite nicely. And then obviously onto the famous corkscrew corner, probably the hardest corner on the track, just ahead of the last one we went into. Blind entry, blind exit. It doesn't get much more challenging than that. So you'll notice I'm not using all this curb on entry. You're braking quite early. You're probably looking to brake just as you come off this curb. These lines here, or these bits of tarmac, probably a good reference to start braking. You don't want to brake too hard because of the camber and the nature of the corner. If you brake too hard, you will lock up and you'll carry that all the way into the corner. Obviously, your tyres will overheat. You're going to understeer in, and you're not going to make it. So you're braking. Always better to brake a bit earlier here than you think. Obviously, going off here is pretty disastrous. So you can see I'm braking. See on my trace here, braking about 50%, maybe just over it when you're coming onto the brakes, and then trailing off it slowly. So obviously building up that nice peak onto the brake and then trailing off. If you come off too quickly, you're going to lock. The tyre's going to lock. The diff is going to like it too much, and you're going to get a lot of oversteer that you really don't want, especially at this corner. Again, into the corner, you're using all this curb that you can. You can get away with that quite nicely. And rather than using all of the curb on the entry, tend to start to drift towards the apex. Reduces your stopping distance. If you turn in a bit too late as well, you are just losing time, and it makes the corner even harder to sort of guess where you are. If I go into the cockpit view here, you'll see just how hard it is. I mean, you cannot see the corner at all. So braking just at that piece of tarmac, onto that curb, and then you just throwing it over this curb really. You can get away with dipping this wheel on the gravel. You won't get an off track for that. That's absolutely fine. And it does help rotate the car as well. You're just using that gravel or sand or whatever it is to your advantage. Getting the car nice and early into the apex. You can see I'm nearly all four wheels off the track there, but you can get away with that. That's absolutely fine. And then once you get to the midpoint, you are just looking to straight line this. But there we go. You are just looking to straight line the exit as much as you can. So again, you can't really see much coming over this. So it's going to take a bit of practice just to learn your references. You are just, again, getting on throttle quite early. So you can see I'm nearly on the throttle, even at the apex here. So coming off as soon as you've apexed, you want to start getting back on the throttle. And then just believe that the track will still be there when you get there. Because, you can't really see it much. So yeah, getting back on the throttle, using a bit of the track on the exit as well. You don't want to run too wide, just so it's going to compromise the corner after this. So I'll just show you that again, all in one motion. So yeah, coming into the corner, apex slightly early, get all four wheels onto that curb. You don't want to touch the gravel here really, because you will get off track and it will drag you too far in, and you're going to compromise your exit. So it's not similar to the previous corner, second part of the corkscrew. You don't want to touch the gravel. Just getting all on that curb, there's a lot of camber that will help rotate the car and carry the car through. But yeah, just don't touch the gravel. Sorry, I said I'd show you that in one fluid motion, but I didn't. So yeah, into the corner, carry that speed, get on the throttle nice and early. You're running out to about the middle of the track, which then sets up the next corner we'll come on to. Now this one's a bit tricky as well, similar to most corners on this track, it turns out. You don't want to run too wide. So I tend to stay in the middle of the track here on entry, because not only you're reducing distance, there's also a camber, again, that runs you out wide if you go too wide here. You're going to want to stay in the middle of the track, I found. Fourth gear all the way through here, just to make sure the rear end doesn't stick out. But yeah, in the middle of the track, get it nice and early into the apex, and get a bit closer than that than I did. Again, make sure you don't touch the sausage curb, so it'll throw you off. But yeah, get it nice and early into the apex, coming off the brake. There, about 30% brake pressure is all you need, just to get the nose in. And then you get on the throttle. By the time you hit the apex, you're basically full throttle. As you can see, I am here. And then using all the track on the exit, just making sure you're carrying that speed through. Again, this is similar to the run up the hill before the corkscrew. You don't really want to touch this curb too much, because it will just drag you wide. You're going to lose lap time. You're not going to be able to get back over to the other side of the track for the next corner. So I'll just show you that again. Middle of the track. Getting on the throttle nice and early at the apex. Running out wide, but not too wide. And then we come into the penultimate corner. You're running it just to the edge of this curb, because this curb will also throw you off. You can get maybe a wheel on there if you're feeling a bit bold. But it's very easy to run off here, run wide, and really important on this corner to get into the apex. Again, a lot of camber. It's really important you apex quite early here. This corner, so this curb, this red sausage curb, really horrible. Similar to the corner before the hill. It will just throw you off, and you're not going to make, you can see the runoff. You'll probably make a tyre barrier if you hit that. So try not to touch that sausage curb, because that is a race ender. Get as close to it as you can. You see, nice. That's pretty much as close as you can get to that without being launched over it. And then getting back on the throttle just at the apex. You can see I'm about full throttle already. And then running out onto that curb. So I'll just show you that once again. Getting out nice and wide, not touching the curb. Early apex. And the corner flows quite nicely. If you can get it like that every lap and get that nailed down, you're going to find a lot of time and get into that rhythm. It's really important around this track. Coming into the last corner, there's a bit of an exception to this corner, because you can actually touch the sausage curb, as it's a slow speed corner. You're not relying on the downforce so much. So when the car does get unsettled, it actually brings the car round. So you can see I'm all over the curb on the entry. Make sure you're aiming for the sausage curb here. You're getting all your two wheels over that. And that, as I say, helps rotate the car. You can get on the throttle a lot earlier, and you're going to carry that speed all the way down the pit straight. On exit as well, I found you can use all of this. You you used to be an off track, and then they updated it a couple of seasons ago where you can now use this AstroTurf here. It's slightly bumpy on the exit, but it doesn't really cost you time. So I've got a wheel on it here. If you're really struggling, you can use more runoff. It's not the end of the world if you don't. But yeah, main focus for this corner is make sure you hit the sausage curb. You won't get an off track for it, and you won't get an off track on exit either. So just make sure you hit the sausage curb, gets the car rotated nice and gently, and then onto the throttle, and that is a lap of Laguna Seca. So there we have it, guys. That was the hot lap guide and setup for this week's Porsche Cup at Laguna Seca for week 2. Make sure you guys check out the website, coachdaveacademy.com, for all the best setups, hot laps, and guides, and also coaching as well. And also you can check out the Discord, really helpful tips in there as well. But yeah, I hope it was really useful and I hope you enjoyed the content, and see you next week.